with lifestyle and behavior, whether it's back to school or not, we often start with sleep.
Yep.
And so we've done a deep dive on sleep, and we did talk about recommendations for children there as well.
Right.
But specifically in this context, adequate sleep is a surefire way, just to review, a surefire way to help the immune system, improve behavior, improve school performance and memory,
Yep.
and improve general mental health. So with those 4 sort of points, I mean, sleep is like I would say the most important part of this whole discussion.
It's the lever that's moving the most.
Yes. It doesn't mean it's easy. Again, as you guys were joking, I mean, I have no idea how you as parents can consistently make this happen.
We can talk about that
we can
in a
at least,
minute.
yeah, we could talk about it. So there are, firstly, I think if we start with the amount of sleep.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much should kids get?
In a perfect world, we'll talk about amount. So I got these numbers from the Sleep Foundation, which I go to often for sleep sort of cut points. Preschool aged kids, 10 to 13 hours per night. School aged children, 6 to 12 years old, 9 to 12 hours of sleep.
Okay, so 6 to 12 is elementary and middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And you said 9 to 12 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of based on the kid and the age.
Exactly. And so that will, that'll include naps as well as their normal nightly sleep.
So as they get older, they theoretically need a little bit less sleep.
Theoretically, yes. Yes.
And then what about teenagers?
And so teenagers, it's a little bit less. It's into that 8 to 10 hour range. So it's just a very slight, there's overlap in all of these kind of arbitrary.
Yeah, and it is arbitrary.
Yeah.
If a kid's going through a growth spurt or something, they need more sleep. There's all kinds of things like that can factor in.
Yeah. And I guess the key point there is that it's all more than what's recommended of, maybe adults our age. Things change and some adults require a little less sleep. But I mean, I don't think it would be the end of the world if we all got 9 hours of sleep, 10 hours of sleep.
I'd be a lot less productive, but sure.
Right. So, but again, I think it's in a developing individual, sleep is just the duration is, maybe even more critical. So and it sets them up for good sleep behaviors kind of later in life.
So first things first, make sure the kid's getting enough sleep. Mm-hmm. And that transition, this is the point of this, the transition from summertime when you can sleep in as late as you want until into school when for some reason we've decided kids have to be in class at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I will never understand that, but okay.
Yeah. There's been a major push to try and move that back, right? It's like an ongoing thing.
Absolutely. I don't know how serious the push is, but it made sense once upon a time when the kid had to be home in time to do chores.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense to me that a child needs to be in a classroom at 7 a.m. learning when they probably wouldn't wake up until after that, except for little kids.
Yeah.
I don't know about yours, but mine always got up really early.
They're all different.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing scarier though when you wake up and they're just standing over you, and they say, "Wake up." Oh my gosh. But yeah, they've all been a little bit different. Earlier, later.
Yeah.
Summer's completely different, of course.
Right. And that's so the transition from summer or fall break or whatever into school, I would submit that the solution there is early and often, that you start pushing that bedtime back and you start having a routine again and going, no. We're going to bed at 9.
Yeah.
We're going to bed at 9. Okay, we're going to bed at 8:45 this week. Next week it's 8:30.
Yeah.
And then it's 8:30 for the rest of the school year.
Yeah. I think
or whatever.
Yeah, in a perfect world, that's definitely what would be recommended. I think there's enough evidence to recommend that. I think it makes sense logically, but it is just hard. So like a lot of people get done with their family vacations in August and the end of August. And so, it's like a mad dash.
Yeah,
it's like they're going school shopping, they get their supplies, and
Yep.
it's like they're at Target, and the next day they wake up and they're in school. It's like,
right.
That's like how I kind of remember it.
Well,
it's just this chaos.
And my kids just did this to me just recently going, yeah, but this is the last day of summer. Can't we stay up until forever?
Right.
It's like, no, that's the whole point is you have to get back into the swing of things, into schoolwork.
Yeah, we usually start like 2 to 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
School start, we'll try to get back into routine. But similarly, this is the last thing before summer. Let's go make a trip. And then we want to be good parents, right?
Yep.
And so let's do one. Let's stay up late one last night. But
Man,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's impractical to look at this stuff and think you're going to hit it 100%. But it is key. So it's not some like massive change as soon as they got to wake up that
But
first
just
day.
like food,
Yeah.
it's not about what you do one time or on a celebratory event. It's about what you do over the long arc, right? That's what's more important.
Right. The other recommendation there that I would say makes sense, and again, you guys would be able to offer more than I could. Routine. So again, getting into this routine soon, often, getting accustomed, like we said, but also what does that routine look like? And so the goal is to have continuity with nap times and meal times. And so that there's just this daily rhythm that can occur. And so specifically with a bedtime routine or like a wind down period,
not wine. Don't give your kids wine.
Oh man.
Wine. The brush, book, bed recommendation.
Yes.
So it's what I see my nieces and nephews do. It's what I see. I don't know.
It's what we do.
It's what I feel like I did at some point.
Yep.
Still being recommended, but I still end up on Twitter and Instagram after I do those things, brush, book, bed. Oh, back to Instagram.
See, we got to stop that. No kids on Twitter. That's a terrible place for them.
Right. Definitely.
Or X or whatever.
But as the
it's called
adult, even as like X, X, the key is setting the example as the adult. I'm the bad example because I do it all well, and then I throw it out the window at the last second. I fumble the bag, so to speak.
Yeah.
In those last moments. But anyways,
so you're working on that.
I'm working on
this. Help you with that transition.
It's like back to school, but I'm not going back to school. It's just
it's the rest
back
of
to
your
the
life.
podcast. It's the rest of my life.
Yep.
You mentioned screen time.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. But yes, establishing that routine, absolutely critical, because that's something that when they're 12, 14, 16, 18 off to college, it's like they at least have years and years and years of being fairly compliant and comfortable with that sort of process.
Sleep
that they'll
hygiene.
need. Sleep hygiene. Again, all stuff that we talked about. The other thing with sleep as it relates to back to school is that as parents or providers, the key word is to recognize. And so pay attention to these sorts of things so that you can eventually maybe bring them to your pediatrician or some sort of provider. But basically looking out for snoring or loud breathing, like really serious stalling before bed or resisting. As the teacher all of a sudden, as your child went back to school, mentioning issues with alertness and those sort of things, stuff that may be reflective of like, it's just a difficult transition and blah, blah, blah. But like try to take that serious. It could be related to sleep. It could be related to that routine that you have or have not built. Or showed them by example. Those are all parts to keep in mind. And again, don't be afraid to bring those up as you start to recognize them, as they, sequence back into school.
That makes sense. What else in lifestyle?
Exercise is a big one.
Yep.
Sleep and exercise we could talk about all day, but summer is generally a time where, their kids are out in the neighborhood. They're playing an organized sport. They were swimming. You belong to the pool or your whatever, playgrounds and all that kind of fun stuff, summer camps. Now, as you go back to school, there's potentially, for a given child, like the chance that there's going to be a decrease in overall activity. So however you can bridge that gap to ensure that they're still, moving as much as they were in the summer, that's key. So already starting to plan their fall and winter activities would be recommended, in my opinion, whether that's a sport or another sort of camp or nightly activity or after school activity that they can stay at and take, partake in. Now, before I go any further, the explicit recommendation as far as the amount goes, so for children 6 and older, that is to get 60 minutes or more of activity per day. And so blocks of like 10, 15, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, all of those count. So it doesn't have, I know it's hard sometimes to just get 60 minutes straight,
Yeah.
But if it's 20 minutes after school and then they do their homework and they go back out for 30 minutes, like they really, 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 really want to try and hit that 60 minutes every day.
And we're talking running, jumping, climbing trees. We're talking about doing things that are somewhat physically strenuous for a child.
Exactly. And so within that 60 minutes, yes, that covers the aerobic based exercises, but we can't forget about the muscle and bone strengthening activities as well. And so that is more climbing, body weight stuff, hanging, push-ups, swinging. They could even do some structured exercises. They could do planks. They could do sit-ups. They can jump, skip, hop, all those sorts of things that do more for, your tendons and muscles and bones than just, sort of, playing kickball, for example. Right. So there is like the next layer to that too.
Makes sense.
So exercise is key. I don't know how evidence-based this is, but there is something to be said about doing enough to sort of tire them out. So once at the end of the day, it's just, they're just ready to shut it down.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's 100% accurate. I think
You ever just shut it down, Josiah?
I shut it down. I shut down.
Yes.
The kids sometimes, not always, but
yeah, keeping kids active enough that they go to bed relatively easily is always nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, organized sports are great, I guess, in that regard, because it's just like a very structured period that they'll have to do that. But again, you're not playing basketball or soccer or karate 6 nights a week.
Right.
I mean, that's still going to be enough you're still moving the needle, but that's not 60 minutes a day. Like, there's still going to have to be targeted watching.
Yeah.
Hey, get active, do this, set it up for them, play with them.
Yep.
Be the example with the routine.
Yep.
With sleep, be the example with moving around. You know what I mean?
I think that's
test their mile time, test their 1 rep max bench press, test their.
Oh, my kids love that. My kids love that. Yeah. Let's see how fast you could do this. They're boys, so they love the challenge.
That's it.
Test their VO2 max. Just hook them up.